Hi everyone and welcome to this tutorial. Here we're going to see how we can use the enhanced input system of Unreal to rebind our mappings. I'm also going to use the Common UI plugin so I can have a menu to display the mappings. I'm going to do everything in C++, and I'm also going to use the project from my previous video as a base. You can find a link for it in the description if you need it, but you can use your own project. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here will be to open the project settings. Then go to Engine, Enhanced Input, over here. Under user settings, we need to take this, enable user settings, and save. This allows us to use the rebind system from the enhanced input system. The second thing we need to do will be to use the Common UI plugin. So let's go to Edit, Plugin, and let's look for Common UI. Alright, let's take this, let's enable the plugin. You must restart Unreal Editor for the changes to take effect. Alright. So yeah, let's restart it. We can just even close Unreal, because we will need to do several things in C++ before heading back to Unreal. Alright, let's close it. Now we need to add more things to the .build.cs file. So let's open it. The name of my project is still lesson movement from last time. So I'm going to go inside lesson movement.build.cs. Okay. In order to use this properly, we need to add more things inside the public dependency module name. Sorry, let me zoom a bit. Alright. We need to add two things over here. The first thing will be UMG, and the second thing will be slate. Let's save this, and then let's compile. Okay, we're back on Unreal. In order to use the Common UI plugin, just make sure that it's activated. Common UI plugin, perfect. Okay, we can close this. The menu that we're going to use will use the Common UI plugin. We will need to have two things. First, a common user widget. Inside this, we're going to have a common activatable widget stack. And inside that stack, we're going to add, well, common activatable widget. Okay, let's create the common activatable widget for the pause menu. So, I'm going to Content Browser, C++ classes, add a new one. Like I said, so common activatable. You can see that we have a lot of things with common at the beginning. This is all the class that came from the plugin. Common activatable widget over here. I'm going to create a new subfolder for that. So inside public, let's go and create a new one that I'm going to name UI. Select, perfect. I'm going to name mine, so pause, caps lock, pause menu, common activatable widget. The name is quite long, so I'm going to just name it more simply CAW for common activatable widget. So pause menu CAW. And let's just wait for Unreal to be done with it. Okay, Unreal is done. I'm going to close it and I'm going to reload it. Cool, we're back on Unreal. We need to create one more class in order to create the menu properly. Let's go to Content Browser again, new C++ class, and the next thing we're going to need will be a button. We're going to create a subclass from Common Button Base. So let's look for it. Common Button, not button style, Common Button Base over here. And I'm going to name mine simply Main Button Base. And just make sure that we're inside the UI folder and let's create it. Cool, Unreal is done. Let's close it. Let's reload the solution as soon as Unreal is done. Cool, we got the main button and the pause menu CAW, control activatable widget. We're ready to create the menu. We're going to do that first and then we're going to go inside the enhanced input system. I'm going to put the time on the description so you can jump directly to the part that interests you most. If you already have a menu that's ready to go, you can jump to that part directly. Okay, let's get back to the button. We need two things inside the button. We will need an event to know when the button is going to be clicked, and we also need a text so we can display some text inside the button. Let's add abstract over here, and let's start with the text first. Okay. Okay, so we'll need an f text. This is where the user is going to indicate the text that he wants to display inside the button. So I'm going to name this button text. Oops, sorry. And if we want the user to be able to set value inside this fText, let's add a U property over here. Edit anywhere, and I'm going to put this inside a category, well, just simply main button. Okay, the fText is where the player is going to reference the text that they want to display, but it's not where the text is going to be displayed. We're going to display the text inside a common text block. So let's look for it. Common text block. There you go. Let's get the include over here for the CPP. And let's get the name of the class. Not common text style, but common text block. Over here, U common text block. This is what I want. So I'm going to name this, well, bind underscore main common text. I always include bind at the beginning of the name of the variable if I know that I'm going to reference this variable inside the blueprint. They are more easy to spot that way. And I'm also going to need a U property. I don't need any category over here, nor edit anywhere, but I will need something else. I will need to indicate that this widget is going to be, well, bindable. So bind widget optional. We'll need the text inside the button to be updated as soon as the user is going to add something inside the button text. So for that, we'll need to use the function named preconstruct protected. So we're going to inherit from it virtual void. I think it's not preconstruct but native preconstruct. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is it for the text, but we're going to need an event. We want to know when the button is going to be clicked. If we're using a normal button, there is already an event that does exist for that, but for the common base, we got an event named button base clicked, but if we go on it, the event is protected. And we want to use this event outside of the button base class. So we'll need to create our own event. Let's go back to the main button base for that. And let's quickly add an event. So declare dynamic multicast delegate. I'm going to name this on button clicked. There you go. Let's add the event. This needs to be public so we can access it from another class. Well, on button clicked. So in order to call this event, we need to override another function. The function named native on clicked is going to be called as soon as the button will be clicked. So let's go for it. Virtual void native on clicked, and of course override. Let's start with a native construct. So let's call the super fast. Let's go. And then we want to update the main common text. So if we have it, let's update it. And there is a function named set text, absolutely. So let's use it with the button text. So this is for displaying the text that the user is going to indicate. And this one will be for the events. Same as before, let's call the super first. Cool. And then let's call the events. Oops, sorry. Broadcast. Alright, this is enough for the button. Let's create a button on the Unreal side. Okay, we're back on Unreal. Let's create the button. So in UI, let's create a new, well, blueprint. I think I might need to use widget blueprint for that. Main button base over here, perfect. I'm going to name it, well, BP underscore, or WBP for widget blueprint underscore main button. And let's open it. We have nothing inside for the moment, that's normal. But we need to add two things. We need to add first an overlay. Let's look for it. And second, we need to hide a common text space. So let's look for it again. Common text. Yeah, that's it. We can quickly try one thing. If I simply put, let's say, example, yeah, you can see it's been written over here. I'm simply going to name, well, button text. That's going to be enough. We can compile, save. Since we're using the common plugin, we can add style for it. So let's create a new style for our button. Over here, create new blueprint. I'm going to put it inside UI. I'm going to create a new subfolder over here named style. Okay. I'm going to name mine main button style. Save. For the fonts, I'm going to use Roboto. I want the text to be bold. Bold. 32 is enough, so let's compile, save, and let's use it over here. Okay, it's good. I also want to put the text inside the center, so this should be good. Compile, save. And this is it for the button. Let's close this. Oh, let's quickly get back to the button. I totally forgot something important. Sorry for that. I totally forgot to add a common border inside. So, overlay. Oops, common border. Yep. I need this to be below overlay and I need the text to be inside this. So, common border. I want the thing to take the entire space and I want to add a style inside. UI style. Main common border style is good. And I'm just going to change the background color to something grayish. Yeah, this is good. And then let's go back to the text. Let's go back to the text style. And I want it to be, well, not black, but white. Okay. Okay, this is good. The text is easy to spot that way. Let's save it. Then let's create something else into you. Let's go into UI. Now let's create the menu, the pause menu. Widget blueprint. We're going to create a common user widget. I'm going to name this pause user widget or WBP pause user widget. Inside this, let's add a canvas. Oops, let's go. And let's add a common activatable widget stack. Common activatable widget stack, perfect. Let's compile, save. Okay, this is good. But now we need to create the widget stack that we're going to place inside this. So let's go back to the code. So let's go back to the pause menu CAW. So let's think about what we want to do inside. Well, first I want to add abstract over here. And then I want to add a button. The first thing we're going to do is to add a resume button. For that, let's use the class that we created before. Main button base. I'm going to add the include over here. And I'm going to take the name of the class. And let's add this. So I'm going to name mine, well, resume button. And it's going to be a pointer, of course. We're going to update this value inside the editor. So let's add a uProperty, meta, and the same thing as before, bind widget optional. Oh, and this needs to be protected, of course. Okay, having the button is cool, but we're going to need something else. We're also going to need a function to call. Since we're going to bind the function to an event, we need to add uFunction on top of it. I'm going to name this, well, simply onResume button clicked. Okay, we're going to need two other things. We're going to need a pointer to the main player controller. I'm quickly going to get back to my file, main player controller. I will need this include, and I will need this name, and I'm going to name this player controller. Okay. I want this to be a weak object pointer. There you go. Okay. We're going to be able to catch this reference inside the native construct function. I'm pretty sure that native construct is protected. Yeah, it is. Okay. You can copy and paste this. Okay, so what we want to do over here inside the native construct is to get the reference of the player controller and to bind the button to the onResume button clicked. Oh, and I'm also going to add this before, well, bind underscore resume button. Okay, let's go. Let's go over here and let's start with the resume button click function. So what we want to do over here is to collapse the visibility of this widget. So set visibility slate visibility, yes, collapsed. We want to remove this widget from the parent, so remove from parent. And if we got the player controller, it's valid. We will need to set the input mode back to game modes only, and we need to hide the cursor because we're going to display the mouse cursor when the pause menu is going to be open. So let's go for that. So set input mode. Input mode game only. Okay. Second thing, I want to hide the mouse cursor, so set show mouse cursor, and I want to set this to false. Okay, and I also want to unpause the game because we're going to pause the game. For that, I will need function from new gameplay statics. Okay, looks like I will need the include, so let's go for that. New gameplay statics, cool. And the include will be kismet / gameplay static.h. Let's go. And so set game pause, set it to false. Let's go now for the native construct. First thing first, let's call the super on that. The first thing we need is to get the player controller. For that we can use another uGamePlayStatic function named getPlayerController. Oops. Get player controller. We need a reference, player index will be 0, and we want to apply this to the player controller value. And we might need to cast this actually, because we're using the main player controller class, so let's do a quick cast. And we're good. So since under onResume button clicked, we will hide the UI and the mouse cursor and also unpause the game. Let's do the reverse thing. So for the open menu, I'm actually going to create a function so it's more easy to read for that. Let's go void open menu. Okay. And so inside this open menu, I can almost like copy and paste all of this. And so set game to pause, true. I want to set the visibility to visible. Remove from parents, I wanted that one. If the player controller is valid, set input mode to, well, input mode UI only. And show mouse cursor, true. Okay. So when the game is going to be paused, we're going to display all the menu. and when it's going to be on pause, we're going to hide everything. So let's go. Okay, we will need one last thing, which is bind the function to the button. So bind button. If we have its reference, well, I will need to bind a new function. So to on button clicked, add unique dynamic, and what I want to add will be the on resume button clicked function. So let's go. I'm going to copy and paste the name of it, and there we go. Okay, this looks good. Let's compile Unreal again to see if everything works. Okay, we're back on Unreal. Let's create this. So let's look for the pause menu CAW. Let's go. WBP. I'm going to name this, well, pause menu CAW. Let's open this. Okay, we'll need several things inside. First, an overlay. Oops, let's go. Then a border. Okay, I want the border to have the entire size. Save. Also going to change the color a bit for something less bright. Yeah, this is alright. Okay. Compile, save. I will need something else inside. I will need a vertical box. Okay. I don't want the vertical box to fill the entire thing. I more want it just to be in the middle. Inside I will need several things. The first thing I will want will be to display the text, to display pause menu. Let's look for a common text. Let's go. Okay, I will need to create a new style for that. So let's add a new one, UI, style, and I'm going to name this title. Title text style. I want this to be white, and I want this to be big, so 80 should be good. Also, photo, bold, compile, save. Let's apply the style. Okay, I don't want to display text block, more something like pause menu. And gray on gray isn't that great, so let's go for something else, maybe totally black. Oops. Yeah, this is much better. Okay, cool. Next, let's add the button. So for the button, let's look for the class that we created before, which is WBP main button. If I just write main button, yeah, I can see it. Let's put it in the vertical box below our pause menu thing. I'm going to select it. I'd like to have padding on top about like maybe 100 or 80. Yeah, this is good. Okay, compile, save, and I want to display not button text, but I want to display resume button. Okay, resume button is good. And I also need to, I need to change the name of the button. The name of the button was bind resume button, so let's go for that. Compile, save. Okay, we're almost good. Now let's go back to the pause menu user widget. If we select the common activatable widget stack, we can update the root content widget class. Pause menu CAW, compile, save. And yeah, something's weird. I wanted to take the entire screen. Okay, sorry for that. The anchor wasn't properly set up. Okay, this looks good. We already have the menu. We just need to be able to display the menu. So we're going to create a new input action for that, and we're going to link it inside the player controller. Let's go. Let's go for first a new input. So I'm going to create a new like crouch, which is a boolean. So duplicate this. Input action pause. Normally I would put the pause on the escape key, but since I'm using the editor, if I press the escape key, I'm simply going to like close Unreal. So I'm going to put it on the P key instead for pause. So let's go to the in production main. I want to add a new mapping that will be in production pause, and I want it to be on the P key. Okay, and I want to call this when the P is going to be pressed. Okay, so this is good for the in production and the mapping context. Let's close it. Now we need to update the player controller so we can use this new input. Let's go back for it. Main player controller. I'm going to add something new at the bottom, like pause. So inside this section, what we will need to do is to reference the widget so we can display it. So let's add a U property. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste this. This will be quicker. Not input, but pause. And what I want inside will be, let's quickly check this. So the pause menu is a common user widget. This is what we're going to use. So let's look for common user widget. Common user widget. Perfect. I'm going to name this pause menu user widget. And let's not forget to add the include over here. So copy, and in the main player controller, paste this. Okay, now we need two more things. The input, let's add a new one. I'm going to name this one in production pause, and I'm going to create a new function. I won't need to get any struct inside. Pause. Okay, let's create it. Well, it's not giving me the quick access for it, so I'm going to copy and paste this. I'll place myself at the end of it. Okay, let's bind this new button. So with the in production pause, let's call the pause function, and this is going to be simple. We're going to check if we've got the widget. So let's go over here. If we've got the widget, let's create it. So I'm going to create a new pause menu, and for that we're going to use the create widget function. So it takes this and it's going to take the template. Owning object is going to be this, and the template will be pause menu user widget. Oh well, it doesn't want it. I think I may have missed something over here. Let's look. Yeah, it won't be a pointer, it will be a subclass of. So T subclass of. Okay, and he should be happy. Okay, perfect, sorry for that. So if the menu was created, let's simply display it. And for that, let's simply say call add to viewport. Perfect. Now let's compile, and if everything works alright, we should be able to display the menu. Okay, we're back on Unreal. Let's go to the player controller. I'm going to add my new in production pause, compile, save. Let's try it. If I press P, no, nothing's happening. Okay. Yeah, I totally forgot to put the pause menu user widget, which is simply pause menu user widget, compile, save. Okay, if I press resume, okay, the menu is ready. So to continue, we're going to create a new common activatable widget that we're going to place inside the pause menu. Inside, no, sorry, not this one. Inside the pause menu CAW. Let's go and create the C++ class first. This is where we're going to display the key that we want to update. So all classes, I'm going to look for a common activatable widget. I'm going to name mine well, first CAW for common activatable widget, and I'm going to name it key mapping. Key mapping CAW. Let's put it inside the UI. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm going to wait for Unreal to be done. In the meantime, I'm going to add abstract over here. Okay, Unreal is done. I'm going to reload my solution, and I'm going to compile again. We're going to create the UI first, and then we're going to implement the code. Okay, we're back on Unreal. Let's create this. Let's go inside this folder. User interface. Like I said, it was key mapping. So let's create it. WBP underscore key mapping CAW. Let's create this first. So what we want to have inside will be first an horizontal box. Okay. Inside this we want to have first a common text so we can display which key we're going to update. Common text. Then we need an input selector. Input key selector, sorry. Then we will need a button. So WBP main button. This will be the reset button, and that will be it. We can select the three of those. Select fill, so we have the entire text. For the common text block, I want to use the main button style. That should be enough. Okay, let's quickly rename them before going to code. So I'm going to name the first one the button text. Bind underscore input display name. This one will be bind input, sorry for that, input key selector. And the last one will be bind reset button. And we can update this over here, and instead of button text, let's write reset. Compile, save, okay. Since the name we're going to change, I might not pull fill, but maybe put simply like 0.3 to all of those. Okay. Okay, so this is ready. Now we need to update several things inside the input. So let's go to the input mapping context, and I'm going to rebind simply two things over here. I'm going to rebind the movement, and I'm going to rebind the pause menu, so we can have two different examples. First, we need to add something. It's the setting behavior. So for all of those inputs, let's select it. And I want to add override settings to all of them. Okay. Then player mappable key setting. Let's select this. So player mappable key setting experimental. Nothing for the sprint, nothing for the crouch, but something else for the pause. And now we can open all of those things. So let's check the data. The metadata, we're not going to update this, but we need a name. We need a name for the input. So I'm going to name this one simply forward. I'm going to name the second one backward. I'm using ZQSND, but if you're using WSND, you're going to do the same thing. Q for me will be left, and D for me will be right. There is something important. The display name can be the same, but the name should be unique. For the display name, I'm going to write like forward as well, backward, actually left and right. Okay, we can put these inputs inside a category. I'm going to create, the movement category. And I'm going to reference all those inputs inside this one. Okay, now let's do the last one. For supported key profile, we don't really need to add anything over here for the moment. And for the last one, pressed, I'm going to name this input pause. Same thing for the display name. For the category, I'm going to put this inside the option category. And we can save. Okay, all those data are ready. This means that now we're going to be able to access it, and we're going to be able to rebind those keys. We're not going to be able to rebind look, jump, sprint, crouch, etc. We will need to indicate this and do the same thing with the setting behavior if we want to be able to rebind them. Okay, let's not close it, but let's first indicate all these bind elements inside the code. So let's go for the code. So for the key mapping CAW, let's start to reference everything. Okay, so first thing first, we will need to reference the command text block. So u command text block, and the name was input display name. And of course, like the other one, we need this thing to be bind widget optional. We'll have another thing that's going to be the input key selector. And the name of it was bind underscore input key selector. And the last thing, oh yeah, sorry. The class of this will be input key selector. It's going to be a pointer. And one more thing, the button. And the button was bind reset button. The name of the class was the main button base over here. And same, null pointer. Okay, let's add the include on the CPP file. So for the button base, button base, we need to have one for the command text block that we also used in the button base. So let's go copy and paste. And the last one will be the input key selector. For this one, we'll need to search for it. Input key selector. Okay, let's go. We have it. Perfect. We will need to create two functions, one for the input selector and one for the reset button. So let's go. Protected. The first one will be for the button. So u function. I'm going to name this one on reset button pressed. Okay, cool. The second one will be for the input key selector. I'm going to name it on, oh sorry, not class, void on key selector. This function will actually take an argument inside a struct. That's going to be f input call. I'm going to name the value selected key. There we go. Let's go. Okay, we will need to bind these two functions. For that, we will need to use the native construct. So let's go. Protected. Virtual void native construct. And now we'll override this. Okay, cool. So call this super. Let's start with the input key selector. So if we have it, bind input key selector. After that, we're also going to bind the reset button. But first, let's check if we have it. We're going to bind ourselves on the event on key selected. This will need an event and the function that we've created before. Oh, I forgot something important. Add unique dynamic. Okay, this is much better. And if we go to this event, we see that we need to use the input code struct. Second, let's do it for the button. So if bind reset button on button clicked, and the name of the function is, let's go. And I also forgot the add unique dynamic over here. Let's copy and paste. Okay, perfect. Now we are almost good. For the onKey selected, the onReset button pressed, we will need to call some function inside the main player controller. We haven't created them yet, but let's prepare the code for it. First, we will need a reference for it. So let's create a new reference for the main player controller. So let's start also by getting the include and by getting a pointer for it. This is also going to be a weak object pointer. Simply going to name it player controller. And we should be able to get it in the construct over here. So get player controller. And we'll be able to get it with the same thing as the pause menu CAW, so the U gameplay statics. Let's get the include. And let's copy and paste this. Okay. Can add a small check over here. If this is valid, let's continue. Same for that. Okay, we will need to go to the player controller, but first we can also add several other things before leaving. The first thing that we want to save over here will be the input name. This will be simply an F name. We will need to have these values so we can update properly and reset properly all the elements. So an input name. We also need to have a reference to what we're going to display, so the displayed key. The display key will use a specific struct of the enhanced input component. So enhanced action key mapping. Oops. Okay, we can quickly look for it. So F enhanced action key mapping. Let's get the include. Okay, so we've added the include. Let's go back over here and let's add struct before. So enhanced action key mapping, and I'm going to name this, well, displayed key. Okay, those are protected. We won't be able to access them. We'll need to create some public functions for that. Those public functions will be called from the player controller. So the first one will be set input name. We're going to take an F name, of course. In input name. The second one will be set input selector. We're going to use the struct that we've just used before. This will be an address. I'm going to name it, well, given key. And the last one will be set display name. We're going to have in memory the input name that we've set and the display name also. If you recall, we got two things over here, the name and the display name. We're going to save the name and we're going to update the display name. If we want to be able to get the input back, to get the default value, if we want to reset the input, we will need the name for it. So let's go set input display name. Okay. Okay. So the set input name will be simple. Simply, well, input name equal in input name. The set input display name, we will need to check first if we got the input display name over here, the command text block. So if we got it, simply called set text is the in input name. Oh, yeah, he doesn't like it. He wanted an f text, so let's quickly change this. F text ftext, sorry for that. Okay, we're good with this one. And the last one, set input selector. Let's first check that we've got the input selector. So if we got it, we're going to set selected key. We're going to display which key has been selected. So set selected key. So for that we will need to look inside the given key. Given key, and it's, well, key, I guess. Yeah, let's go. And we will need to save this. So the displayed key will be this, equal given key. Okay, we're almost done on that way. We'll need to create new function inside the main player controller, so we can finish to use the on key selected and on reset button pressed. But like I said, we can do it for the moment. Let's go back to the main player controller. We're going to add a new part over here. I'm going to name it key bindings. We will need to do something. We will need to have a reference to the enhanced input user settings. So let's go. Let's create a variable for that. I'm quickly going to look for the name. So enhanced input user settings. Perfect. I think I already have the include. I'm quickly going to check in the main player controller. Enhanced input. No, I don't have it. So let's go. Enhanced input user settings. And let's quickly get it. No. Okay. And well, let's name this enhanced input. I've made a mistake. User settings. Like I said before, on the key mapping CAW, we have two functions, on key selected and on reset button pressed. Let's create two public functions that we can access from the key mapping. So the first one will be on update binded key, and the second one will be, well, on reset. We will need to have several information for this to work, so we will need to have the mapping name, and we will need to have the new key for this. So let's go. When we want to update a key, we need to have the name of the key, and we need to have, well, the new key. If we want to reset a button, we need to have several things also. Same, we need to have the name of the key. And second thing, we need to have the, well, enhanced action key mapping. We can copy and paste this. This is going to be a reference to this struct, and we can go. Okay, let's create this. Okay, these functions are ready. We will update this later in the key mapping CAW. First, let's get what we need inside. So at the end of it, what we need to do is to get the enhanced input user settings. We need to name this part, well, mapping. So first, enhanced input user settings over here. This is really easy to get. We will need to use the enhanced input subsystem over here and simply get user settings. And there we go. Oh, I also forgot something. We need to have a reference to the enhanced input subsystem. We're going to use it later, so let's go for this. I'm going to copy and paste this. There we go. Perfect. Let's quickly check this, and if we got it, we want to call the function register input mapping context, and we're going to use our main EMC. So this will allow us to get a reference to the input that we want to rebind. Okay, now we can go down to the onUpdate binded key function. Well, this function will be called as soon as the player will select a new key. First thing first, we need to check if we got the enhanced input subsystem. So, enhanced input subsystem. If we don't have it, let's return. First, let's add the key. So for that, we're going to use a function from the enhanced input subsystem, which is simply add player mappable key. Add player mappable key in slot, actually. So this needs two things. It needs, well, the mapping name. We got it. And it needs the new key. Perfect. For the rest, we don't really need it. And then the change will not take effect immediately. We need to apply it. So apply the new key. And for this, we will need to use not the enhanced input subsystem, but the enhanced input user settings, which is over here. So if we got it, let's apply it. We need to apply and save the settings. And we got two functions for that: apply settings and save settings. Perfect. This is good. Now let's do the reset binded key. This one is actually a bit more tricky. We will need to prepare the data so we can find the key that we're looking for, and then we will need to apply the default key back. This is a bit longer. The first thing, we need to check if we got the enhanced input user settings. So like before, if we don't have it, let's return. Then we will need to prepare some data so we can find the default key. We will need to get the key name and to prepare some arguments for that. So first, let's get the key name. So for the displayed key, get player mappable key settings, and I want to have the name of this. I might need to include this actually. Enhanced action key mapping. Let's go, let's add it over here. Okay, Unreal is happy, let's continue. Oh, Unreal is still not happy. We might need to include this as well. Player mappable key settings. Okay, now we got the name of the key. Now we will need to create some arguments so we can find it. fmap player key args, absolutely. Current key arguments. So inside we'll need to prepare several things. The first thing we need to prepare is the mapping name. This will be key name. The second thing we need to prepare will be the slot. The slot, this is an enumeration, and I want to use the first slot. The last thing we'll need will be, well, the new key. And the new key is what we've just returned, displayed key. This is the key that is currently being used. Now that we got all this information, we'll need to get the key profile so we can look for the default key. For this, we will need to use another thing. Let's get the key profile to find the default data. For this, we will need enhanced player mappable key profile. Enhanced player mappable key profile. Perfect. Over here. This is a pointer. So, key profile. For this, we will need to use the enhanced input user settings that we've just checked over here. Get current key profile. And now we got the key profile. So, if there is no key profile, let's return. Now let's get the default key profile. So this will be, so for this we'll need to use find key mapping. Let's send the argument that we've prepared before, so current key args. And we should be good to go. And this returns us a f player key mapping. I'm going to name this default key mapping. Now that we've got the default key mapping, we're ready to get back the default key that we've used for that. So let's update the key. So the default key is an F key, of course, so this will be default key. We're going to use default key mapping with the magic function get default key. So this was quite a journey, but over here we finally managed to get the default key that we've used for a specific input. Now let's apply it, and we've got a cool function for that right above us, on update binded key. And we've got the mapping name, and we've got the new key. Now let's also quickly save this. So since this is a reference, we can save it with the new key. So when we're going to call this function, we'll be able to update the display back, so we can display the default key again. Equal default key. And so save this so we can update the menu back. So to resume, we prepare this struct with all the information that we have. So we manage with the key profile to find the default key. Everything is ready on this side. Now we can go back to the caw.cpp file. So let's do the onKey selector. We've checked if we've got the player controller, which is perfect. And now we need to call on update binded key. So we'll be able to set the input name and not the input display name and the selected key. And for that, selected key.key, and we're good. And with this, the input will be updated. Now with the player controller, we'll call the other function on reset binded key, and this will need two things: the mapping name and the displayed key. And since we've said the display key before on the set input selector, we can send it back. Now after that, we'll need to update back the display value. So set selected key. Since we updated the key inside the function in the main player controller, we can simply apply this back. And let's add some comments over here. So send default key to the controller, and over here send selected key to the controller. Okay, this looks pretty good. We will need to do one more thing, is to display the mappable key inside the pause menu, CAW. So let's create a last part for that. Key bindings. We will display this key binding inside two vertical boxes. So let's look for the class. Vertical box. Vertical box. Okay. So I'm going to add the header over here. Quickly going also to take the name of the class, and let's go. So we will need one for the movement. So I'm going to name this bind movement key vertical box, and another one which is going to be bind option key. Let's not forget to add the bind widget optional above this. Oh, those are pointers, sorry. We will need to have functions to display all this, so let's create a new void display key bindings function. We need several other things. We will need to have a reference to the key mapping CAW if we want to be able to create it. Let's get the header over here. Okay, we got the include. Now let's create this. The same way we've created in the main player controller the pause menu, we're going to create this new CAW thing. And so for that we use the T subclass of. Okay, so let's copy and paste. This will not be a T subclass of common user widget, but of key mapping CAW. I'm going to name this key mapping user widget. The category will be key mapping. Since we're going to sort the key by category, a movement and an option category, let's create two other things, two fname. The first one will be movement category name. I'm going to prefill this with, well, movement. And the second one will be option category name. Okay, we're good to go. Let's go on the .cpp file. We're going to call this function at the end, so display key bindings in the native construct. We'll have a lot of things to do inside this function. Let's look for some reference first. So, if we don't have the player controller, or if we don't have any of the vertical box, let's return. Check our pointers. Then we will need to get all the bindable key. For that we will need to get the enhanced input subsystem. So we're going to do it the same way as what we've done in the main player controller over here. Like I said, what we'll need will be the enhanced inputs local player subsystem. Okay, this is perfect. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Get this subsystem. Let's create a variable for that. Enhanced input subsystem. And get local player will not work over here, but we can use the player controller. Okay, now we can get all the keys. So let's get a T array. It's going to be a T array of enhanced action key mapping. So enhanced action key mapping. Perfect. I'm going to name this bindable keys. And in order to get them, we simply need to call a function from the enhanced input subsystem. Get, oh, I totally forgot the input for this, sorry. So let's look for the include. I think it's enhanced input subsystem. That should be enough. Cool. Now we got get all player mappable action key mapping. This is perfect. It's exactly what we need. So get all the mappable keys. And now for each key, create and display a widget. Create and display a widget. So we're going to get through all of them. I'm going to name this, well, simply key. And let's go. We will need to get several things. We will need to get first the key name and the key display name. So key name. For that we'll need to use the key dot get mapping name. Perfect. Second, we will need the display name, which is not an fname but an ftext. So display name. And for this we need to use, well, key get display name. Then we need to create the new widget for that. So the new widget was the key mapping user widget. Let's create a new one. We can go and see how we've done this in the main player controller when we open the pause menu. So let's quickly copy and paste this. And what we're going to create will be the key mapping CAW. New key mapping CAW. I can add some comments over here. Get infos. Create widget. If the widget has been created, let's go. We will need to call the set function first. So we had set input name with, well, the input name, key name. Second one was set input display name over here, and for that display name. And the last one was set input key selector. Oops, sorry for that. Bad copy and paste. Okay, this should be better. Okay, cool. And for this, we'll send simply the key. Now we need to display this key mapping in the correct section. For that, we will need to check the category. So let's look for it. We got key, and we get display category, absolutely. So let's save this. The category is what? It's an F text, okay. So okay, so if the category is equal to movement category, oh yeah, we cannot compare, sorry, an F text and an F name. So F name for category, and we can use the toString function, I think. Oh no, toString is an F string. Let's change this quickly. We're not going to use F name, we're going to use F string instead. Good, 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 okay. And now we can compare it. Cool. And so if the category is movement category, we're going to display it in the movement vertical box, but if it's option category, we're going to display it in the other one. So to display it, we can simply use the addChild function. So new key mapping CAW. And same thing for the other one, so for option key vertical box. Okay, that looks good. Let's compile Unreal and try everything. I hope there is no mistake. Might be the case. Oh yeah, there is some. Use undefined struct. Okay, so we cannot use struct over here. We'll need to add the include directly in the .h file. I'm not a fan of that, but okay. So this was the enhanced action key mapping over here. So enhanced action key mapping. Let's add this over here, and we can get rid of struct over here. Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, a small include problem, not a big deal. So we're quickly going to update the pause menu CAW, and then we'll be able to try this. Oh, sorry for that. Just made a small mistake over here. On top, I need to make sure that the reference doesn't exist. If the reference do exist, I don't want to return. Sorry for that. Okay, we're back on it. Let's get back to the pause menu. We can select this. We can add over here the key mapping CAW. Perfect. Let's quickly configure the menu so we can display everything. I'm going to add a small spacer down here. Okay. I'm going to add 0 and 100. Okay, this is good. I'm also going to add another common text. Actually, I'm going to add two. The first one will be movement input. Oh, yeah, the first one, sorry. And the second one will be option input. Let's go. Okay. This is center, this is perfect. We need to add now two vertical box. One between the two and one all the way down here. I'm also going to add another small spacer. Okay, I think 60 should be enough. Same thing for the first one, actually. Okay, now we need to use the correct name for this. It's for the two vertical box. So bind movement key vertical box over here. And for the second one, bind option key vertical box. Compile, save, let's try it. Okay. So let's open the menu. Yeah, cool, I can see all my inputs. They are sorted by the movement inputs and the option input, since inside the input mapping context I've used the category. I can sort them by category, which is pretty handy. Okay, I can try to update the key. Let's say that I want forward to be on A. Okay, I'm pressing A and it's working. And let's say instead that I want to resume it and I want right to be on W. It's working, but it's still a bit dangerous. Like, the player could rebind everything on A and we won't be able to stop him. So you'll need to add other safety measures for that. But we're not going to discuss it in this video. That was it for this lesson. You've learned how to rebind input with the enhanced input system of Unreal Engine. If you got any question, feel free to ask in the comments. Goodbye!